Hey guys, and welcome back to another edition of Criterion and Classics. I am, of course, one of your hosts, Griffin Schiller, and this is the show we like to do weekly over on the FilmSpeak channel where we pick a film. It can either be a classic movie or a film from the Criterion collection, and we just talk about it. It's sort of a project that we wanted to do in an effort to kind of diversify the types of movies that we talk about. It's really important to go back and dissect, review, and analyze the past films in order to better understand present filmmaking and just appreciate the craft more in general. And so that's something that we've really wanted to do with this series, and so that's why it exists. And today we're talking about a really great movie. We're talking about Ingmar Bergman's supposed swan song. It wasn't actually his swan song, but the film that he intended to be the last movie he was going to make, and that, of course, is Fanny and Alexander. Before we dive into this, though, and before I introduce my great co-host here, if you've seen Fanny and Alexander, be sure to let us know your thoughts and opinions on it down in the comment section below. We'd love to have a great discussion. Were you a fan of it? Which version of the film did you watch? Did you watch the 5-hour TV cut? Did you watch the 3-hour-long movie? Whichever version you're going with, it's a long adventure, but it's also an adventure that's worthwhile. So, very happy to be talking about it. But before we dive into it, Mr. Tyler Tompkins, say hello to everyone. And how have you been? I haven't had you on a show in a little bit.
I know, yeah, it's kind of a bummer, man. I just recently started back working and kind of moved into a new place, so I've been doing a lot. It's been a really busy 2 weeks, but I'm excited to be back on. I was bummed we couldn't do it last week.
Yeah.
I couldn't get around to it. I was so busy, but I was excited to finally be able to watch it. We got Wi-Fi.
Yeah,
and I was able to watch Fanny and Alexander, man. 5 hours and 12 minutes.
I know you did the TV version. I stuck with the theatrical just because I didn't have the time.
Which is still 3 hours and like 8 minutes.
I know, that's the thing, man. It's like, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter which direction you go in. You're like in for the long haul with this thing. I see we got some of you guys in the chat here. If you've seen the film and you're watching this, definitely, and you're watching this live, definitely let us know your thoughts and opinions on it down in the chat here. We got Eric Thorpe saying, definitely was a change of pace from The Great Escape. Yeah, you can say that again. Yeah. This is not The Great Escape. This is very, very, very different. All right, Tyler, Fanny and Alexander. Now let's give a little context to why we chose this film, or why you chose this film. A lot of filmmakers, it's not out of the ordinary for filmmakers to say that Bergman is a massive inspiration to them, is a massive influence on their filmmaking. But specifically in some of the filmmakers that we really enjoy, Richard Linklater and Ari Aster specifically have referenced this particular film multiple times, especially Ari Aster when he was doing films like Hereditary, and actually some of his earlier work before Hereditary. You can definitely see Fanny and Alexander echo throughout it. So I believe that was where your interest with this movie kind of came from, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and I want to apologize if you can hear like background noise. My roommates are watching TV. Yeah. Hopefully it's not a problem. But I picked Fanny and Alexander because, like you said, Richard Linklater and more specifically Ari Aster is the one who recommended it. He could not stop talking about it. He's obsessed with Ingmar Bergman. And he's talked about a lot of his movies. Scenes from a Marriage was another one, but Fanny and Alexander is the one I had heard him talk about a lot. And man, from just watching this movie, I could see so many scenes. Like I could see Hereditary and Midsommar in many scenes throughout this movie. I was like, wow. It reminded me a lot of. If you look over there, I've got a Joker poster, and a lot of people give Todd Phillips crap for basically copying Taxi Driver and The King of Comedy, but like. Even though I'll say Ari Aster didn't copy this movie, but it's like these directors pull from inspirations all the time. We just don't really realize it, And it was just funny seeing that. I was like, wow.
I think as it pertains to this film, Ari Aster didn't exactly lift the plot in whatever from this movie.
No, yeah.
Hereditary. It's a little bit of a dip. It's a little bit different, but you can definitely see echoes of this film kind of echoing throughout all of Aster's work specifically. But yeah, I think the thing that's interesting about this is that if you're familiar with Bergman's work, this is really the culmination of everything that he's sort of explored as a filmmaker, and it's why it was supposed to be his last film. He was like, all right, I've done everything that I can possibly do. Let's all bring it together with this one movie. I want to tell this story that's been on my mind ever since I was a kid, which is why this film is semi-autobiographical. And you could see Bergman all over it. I mean, he has... Oh,
it's almost ahead. The movie's almost like a blueprint for life in general.
Yeah.
Just because you go through, he's basically showcasing, this family, this very perfect family. The first episode is an hour and 32 minutes, and disaster doesn't even strike until the very end of it. You just see this joyous family at Christmas time. Everything looks great. But Bergman shows that, like, nobody's immune to disaster. Like, as soon as it creeps in, bad things can happen, and he really displays family relationships and family conflict very well.
Yeah. That's the big focus of this. I mean, my God, he tackles so many different things, but that's a big focus of this film. He also kind of grapples with belief and religion. I know you said you didn't necessarily get that so much out of this movie, but it's something that kind of permeates throughout a lot of his work.
It's definitely in there. It's just not the one thing that I grasped onto. I was more so like focused on the relationship dynamic between the family at the beginning, and then Fanny and Alexander go to live with their new stepfather, who's a bishop, which is kind of where the religion creeps in. But it's just interesting seeing that. He's a very religious man, but he's like really evil at the same time. You're just like, holy crap!
And I think that's exactly. I think that's part of the point. Is he's kind of poking at the hypocrisy of it, and sort of how, like, as a kid, you're really conflicted in what you're supposed to believe and which way you're supposed to go. It's like, I'm supposed to believe in God, and anyone who's a God-fearing man or someone who believes in this sort of thing is supposed to be right and just, right? And they're supposed to be right all the time. But then you get this bishop character who is very much not that. I mean, he's one of those religious fanatics. And so that kind of like starts to mess with his mind a little bit. But yeah, anyways, we've kind of got off on a tangent here before even giving the synopsis. So let's kind of set the stage a little bit more. Tyler, what is the synopsis for Fanny and Alexander? Just for those of you who don't know, although I'm sure many of you do know because this is a spoiler discussion. So I'm hoping you're watching.
But to refresh your memory, hopefully, the movie is basically about Fanny and Alexander, a brother and sister who come from a very, very nice and joyous family. But when they're all of a sudden out of nowhere, their dad dies from a stroke, and their mother remarries this crazy evil bishop who's like very abusive toward Alexander and just very degrading to both of them. And basically the rest of the movie revolves around Fanny and Alexander's original family trying to get them away from the bishop.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. Yeah. I knew nothing about this movie before going into it. I didn't really want to look at what it was about. And I kind of liked that. I liked that. I was kind of surprised. I was like, oh, okay. I thought this was going to be much more, not convoluted, but, I was like, I didn't expect it to be as straightforward as it was. I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. It's kind of like a very fun way,
Exactly. And I would say that's probably why it's Bergman's most accessible film. Like people watch The Seventh Seal, which I think is a masterpiece and I want to discuss on this show at some point in time. But some people are kind of turned off from it, like it doesn't quite, I guess, vibe with them, for lack of a better phrase. But this one, I agree with you. I think because it's a little bit more straightforward, because it's so relatable, and because it's autobiographical, it kind of ticks all the boxes for something that people are more willing to accept and is just easier. It's a much easier watch than something like The Seventh Seal. And
I've never seen any of Bergman's other movies. I'm very new to him. I know all about him, and I know about a lot of his movies. But just from what I've heard from you and other people, this is definitely probably the easiest movie of his to watch. Even though it's one of the longer ones, but it's probably one of the easier ones, I would assume.
Sure. No. Yeah, I absolutely agree. And before we go any further, I do want to address the chat because you guys have been chiming in there. Great to hear from you all. I'm glad you guys watched the movie, even though we're like a week late and are
I'm
chiming in on
shocked
the
there are
discussion.
people who watch. Yeah,
It's
very
great.
surprised.
It's great. It's great. 402-1971 says, a very existential film. Loved it. I have the 5-hour version on DVD. Yeah, that's the version Tyler watched. I watched the theatrical version on the Criterion channel just for lack of time. But
and you're lucky because, since I've watched the 5-hour cut, I can't go back and watch the 3-hour cut because to me, I'm like, holy crap.
yeah,
There's 2 hours of this movie, but no, this is awful. But for you, it's like, it can only get better. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the thing about the film is like it was originally conceived as like
Bergman hates the theatrical cut from what I read. Like,
well, of course he does. That's not the way he intended this film to be made. But I think there's an argument to be made that the theatrical edition, it's a bit more concise, I guess you can say. I don't know, but at the same time, with the 5-hour version, you're getting so much more. I mean, granted, I haven't seen it, so I don't know how much more I'm getting, but I have to imagine it contextualizes everything that's going on much more, and it just, it really takes you on a journey, I guess, with Alexander, in a way that you can't experience with the theatrical. Going back more to the chat here, Eric Thorpe says, I don't get how the kids are in two places at once when they go into the chest and are still upstairs in the nursery. Is that something up for debate still, or did I just miss something? Tyler, what's your take on that?
I think there were just, unless I personally missed something, which is totally possible. I think those were during two different times. For me, at least, that was made pretty clear that it was at two different times. I never thought they were at two places at once, but I could be totally wrong. Please chime in, Eric, if I missed something. But to me, I read it as
yeah. No, for sure. Zach Martian here. Great to see you, dude. Thanks for joining. He says, Fanny and Alexander is amazing, but I think there are a handful of Bergman films that are superior. Persona, The Seventh Seal, and especially Scenes from a Marriage. Yeah, I 100% agree with you on The Seventh Seal and Scenes from a Marriage.
Scenes from a Marriage is the next one I want to watch, because that's another one Ari Aster was he just goes nuts over.
Yeah, that's the thing. It was that Yeah, I mean, scenes from a Marriage and Seventh Seal. I don't know. They're definitely again, this is more accessible, but Fanny and Alexander is more accessible. But if we're talking about just overall, which movies do I prefer? Definitely Seventh Seal. Seventh Seal might be my favorite Bergman. I have to go back and watch a lot of them. But Scenes from a Marriage is the other one. Cool. Yeah, so 402-1971, there's an echo here, guys. Yeah, I believe the echo is either coming from Tyler's room or is from a fan that I have over here, but hopefully it's not too
I keep muting my mic because I don't know if that's doing anything. When I'm not talking, I keep muting it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The TV. That might be it.
No, no worries. If it's coming from my end, apologies, whatever. So... Okay, well, I guess where else do you kind of want to go on this? I
want to talk for sure about just two scenes in particular stood out to me, in terms of Ari Aster's being seeing his inspirations. In Fanny and Alexander, the scene where the father dies. Yeah, there's a scene where he's just laying in a bed, and Fanny and Alexander just hear the mom just screaming because she's so upset. It's honestly haunting. Yeah. It's very scary, and they look through the crack in the door. And the mother's just pacing back and forth, screaming. And dude, that was Hereditary. When the mom's screaming when the daughter dies.
Well,
the same thing.
I completely agree. That is one of the things that's just Ari Aster. He tailored it to fit his film, and I could totally see him giving that direction. That's just okay, think of Fanny and Alexander.
Yeah.
Where the dad dies. Okay, you got it. Okay, all right. Let's go in here.
I wonder if he did do that, man. Yeah, he probably did.
I mean, he probably did. I mean, I don't know which movies he had people watch prior to seeing or prior to making Hereditary, but I would have to believe that was probably on the list.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. And then there's the one scene at the end where the bishop has an aunt. And she's a really nasty looking woman, and she accidentally knocks over a lamp, and she catches on fire, and she runs through the hallway, and you just see her body in flames. I was like, holy crap. Again, Hereditary, like when the dad set on fire, I was like, this is just like that.
Yeah,
like, man, you can totally see, you can see it, you know?
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I love picking up on little, elements like that when you see, what modern day filmmakers kind of take from and whatnot, for sure. Okay,
Is
so
the
other
echo
than
better, by the way, in the chat? Please let us know if it's better.
if it's what I'm hearing, then I think it's fine. I mean,
Okay,
like,
good.
it comes through every now and then, but it's not like the end of the world.
I stopped the muting, so it's probably that was probably it.
Yeah, no, I mean, she'll be fine. If it sucks, guys, I apologize. Okay, so moving away from just like inspirations, what are some of the I guess when you were watching it, what were like the main things that like stuck out to you? Not necessarily like thematically, but like
yeah. Okay, so I have one problem with this movie. I didn't think it was perfect.
Sure.
The length did not bother me at all. Like I was scared it would, but it really didn't. I enjoyed it, and watching it in episode form was actually kind of fun in a weird way.
Well, and I'm almost curious, watching it in episode form, did it allow you, I mean, I understand the whole thing's supposed to be viewed as like a 5-hour-long movie, but if you needed to take breaks here and there, did it allow you that opportunity? And when you got back into it, were you still like, was it like watching a mini series? I guess I should say.
I did. When I started, I basically watched the whole thing through. I only took a break between episode 3 and 4 for like 10 minutes because I had to do something. But when each episode ends, you kind of think to yourself like, okay, is this going to end to where like, is this like a good ending? But most of the endings were pretty abrupt. But it does start. It'll be like I think there's like 5 acts or 4 acts in the movie, and usually it'll begin with like act 4, this and that. So I thought it was pretty cool. I liked it. I liked it like that. It was pretty cool. But
no, that's good to hear.
Yeah. So the magical realism is what I wanted to talk about.
Yes. Yeah.
I loved it. I thought it was
I did too.
I thought it was great, but there's not enough of it.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think each of Bergman's films, granted I haven't seen all of them, but from what I've seen, there is some form of like a Grim Reaper that sort of appears, and it's definitely present in this film, but the way in which it's done is I don't know, man. It's just like really. It's captivating, It
is, yeah, and like it's cool when Alexander keeps seeing. The scene I loved was in the attic when he sees the 2 kids, the ghosts.
Right.
That was really creepy, and it reminded me of The Sixth Sense. Whenever Haley Joel Osment goes into the girls' room and the girl kind of pops up under the bed, I'm wondering if like he was inspired kind of by that because it looked very similar, very eerie. But I wanted more. I wanted more of that, man. I was like, this is so good.
I agree with
dabble
you.
A little bit more.
Right. I wonder if it's something that, I don't know if it could have been in the entire film, because then it kind of changes the purpose of it, in what's going on.
It wouldn't have been as like, because magical realism is basically like whenever they set up a mundane world that's like totally, it seems realistic, and there's just like something's off. And there, you don't want to throw out the whole movie, but I think with a 5-hour and 12-minute movie, there could have been just a little bit more of that, just to make it feel kind of like dreary and kind of like he's in a dream, But
right.
Well, the scenes where it does feel like that is really good.
Yeah,
really
and going off of that, 402-1971 says, I think that it is very dreamlike in so much of this movie that it's hard to tell what is real and what's not real in some scenes. And actually, that's where I was going to go next, was that I don't necessarily think he needed the the overt magical realism in all of the film because of this particular reason. The movie is very like it almost plays like a memory, and like I think that even goes back to not only the way it's shot, but just like the attention to detail with like the sets, which are gorgeous, by the way, absolutely gorgeous.
Oh, dude, it reminds
the second the movie starts.
It's my favorite part of the movie. Like it looked like Amadeus, kind of, but even better.
Yeah, I remember you saying that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so beautiful.
No, I agree with you.
It felt huge.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and it's great. Because the lavish sets at the beginning and everything that's like it's Christmas time and all these beautiful colors and everything, it's the perfect way to contrast the latter half of the film.
Yeah.
You know, when everything's very just like monotone, dreary, joyless in a way. And you know, I think it kind of speaks to Bergman maturing in a way, you know, going through different phases of life, and like again going back to like the exploration of family relationships and understanding that not all families are like what he came from and whatnot. I mean, I could be totally off on that, but it was just a nice compare and contrast. It was nice to contrast, the two different situations that he's sort of in there.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's it's very interesting because, like, of course, the family runs a theater company, which adds to the
Well, that's the other thing that I love is how Alexander and his father kind of bond over storytelling. And like how he and like how film not filmmaking, but like just like how stories in general are such a big part of his life, like Alexander's life, I should say.
Of course, and there's the more obvious things where you can pick up on it too. I mean, I read this, I noticed it, but I was when I was reading kind of more about it. It's funny because Fanny and Alexander's dad, the real dad, wears like white, and then this new guy, he wears black. It's like good versus evil. Like, it's very like evident. Yeah. It's like, of course.
I mean, it's like, his. You can like even take it a little even more like surface than that and go like, okay, so the bishop guy is supposed to resemble the devil of some sorts, even though he's like, a religious guy, I guess you can say. And again, that's going back to like his whole kind of just like grappling of the of religion, because like sometimes the people who we fear that should fear the most, sometimes, not always, are those who come using religion as a rationale for all the bad things they're doing in their lives. And it's like, it's something that's very present in what we see today, for sure. So I think that's just, exactly. Oh yeah, for sure. So I think it's like, it's an interesting and relatable comment to make on belief and whatnot.
Yeah. And the most haunting thing to me about this movie, like I was telling you earlier, is that, you see this perfect family at the beginning. And then of course, they're not immune to consequence. Anything can happen. But after the bad things happen and Fanny and Alexander are finally rescued and go back to quote unquote normal, it's never going to be the same.
Well,
it's never the same.
I mean, like they're completely changed.
They're with the same people again, but it feels so different. Like you just watch the scene, and you're like, like I'm happy, but this just feels off,
Well, and that's sort of why it's, in a way, I wouldn't even say in a way, it is sort of like a coming-of-age film, just even though, not in the traditional sense of it. Mm-hmm. And I can understand why someone like Richard Linklater would like go back to a movie like this to kind of reference when he's doing his coming-of-age movies, because it's something that he's just so, he's become iconic for. And so you're right. Like they are changed. Just like he's dealing with the loss of innocence in a way after going through what he goes through. Yeah,
and him seeing his dad or whatever this ghost is. I read this. It was basically like the past will always haunt you. Basically, it's like it'll never
for sure.
It'll never go away. It's like, oh crap. So there are definitely a lot of like heavy themes in the movie.
Oh yeah, it's very. I mean, like Bergman, he had a kind of a rough life there at an early age,
Yeah, that's why I'm excited to watch more of his movies, because I'm pretty sure they're all very similar in terms of themes, like just kind of
for sure. No, I agree. And before we kind of like start wrapping this up here, 402-1971 also says, the characters are so human in this movie. Even the bishop has flashes of humanity in some scenes. He even seems confused when he finds out how disliked he is. That's the thing. It's like he's blinded by his own belief and like what he's so vindicated in what he's doing. He thinks that he's right, which is why it's like, you're right, he is confused when he finds out how disliked he is. He's like, what, are you kidding me? Like what are you talking about?
Because at first for me I thought it was just kind of like a charade thing, like Of
Oh,
course,
sure.
like
Yeah,
he knows
yeah.
what he's doing,
It's like,
but
no, this is
no, he really didn't know what he was doing.
he
Like
is
you almost
so
feel kind of bad for him in a way. Like, oh, dude,
right.
like,
But
no
like,
one likes you, man.
yeah, but like that's so real. Like that's so human. You know what I'm saying? It's like
Yeah.
the worst people often are the people who believe, like hardcore believe in these horrible things that they're doing. And truthfully, it's what makes a compelling villain. Like the best villains, I always say, are the ones that they believe in what it is that they're doing. They're not just they're not just doing it for money
Yeah.
or whatnot. It's like they actually think that this is right. This makes the world a better place.
Yeah, for me, I knew he was bad, obviously, from what he was doing to Alexander,
Yeah.
the psychological warfare stuff, and the abuse, spanking him or whatever. But the thing that bothered me the most wasn't necessarily him. It was like the atmosphere of the house that it was just like a downer, man. You're like, oh, you just gotta get out of there. Like, the people, like his family is like the aunt he lives with, and the other people completely different than the family you see from the beginning. You're like, holy crap, like this is really bad.
Well, again, it's like it's contrasting like the privileged life he used to live before getting getting a little bit a taste of reality.
Yeah, it's true. That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. But it's fascinating. But guys, if you haven't done so already, be sure to like this video, share it with other classic movie fans or like Criterion fans you may know out there, and consider subscribing to the FilmSpeak channel for more episodes of Criterion and Classics, movie reviews, podcasts, all that good stuff. We like to say the conversation continues after the credits, and if you want to be a part of that conversation, definitely subscribe here. So, okay, let's kind of put let's close the book on Fanny and Alexander, if you will. Here, Tyler, what are your final thoughts on this film?
I really liked it. It did live up to the hype. I would say my expectations were a little bit higher, just because I heard I'd been building this movie up in my head for months, just because I hadn't seen it yet.
Yeah.
And but the 5 hours 12 minutes flew by. My only like sissy boy complaint with the movie is that I wish there had been just a tad bit more magical realism in the movie, with Alexander seeing the dead people stuff. I thought that was really fascinating. But other than that, I highly recommend it. Definitely one of the better movies I've seen on Criterion Channel.
Yeah, for sure. And out of 10, what would you give the movie?
Out of 10, I'd go like 8.5 out of 10. For
sure. So you didn't, and you wouldn't, the length didn't bother you at all?
No, for me it didn't. I kind of watched it in a bit of a time crunch. I started it not yesterday, but Wednesday night. I was like, holy crap, I hope I can finish it, but I couldn't stop. I was like, man, what's going to happen? I was like, oh,
yeah,
shoot.
It's one of those, yeah, for sure. Those are the best ones, those long movies that just grip you. Yeah, I'm going to echo a lot of what you said. I think it's an incredible achievement.
Production design alone, man.
Cinematography, production design, performances. I mean, it's a great ensemble. Like, it's an incredible ensemble for sure. How personal of a story it is to Bergman, the culmination of everything he's exploring as a filmmaker, the fact that it's supposed to be his last movie, and it really it shows a master who's just like, this is everything they've got, and this is they're throwing it all out there, and I think it completely comes through. I love. The magical realism, all that stuff, and
it also won Best Foreign Picture at the Oscars. I did not know that.
It did because, and had it been eligible for Best Picture, it very well could have won Best Picture at the Oscars. It was that beloved. So yeah, listen, it's regarded as one of Bergman's best, one of the best, classic films ever. If you. I don't know. We've said everything we need to say. I'm just repeating myself. So I think for all the reasons that we've sort of talked about throughout this review, I'm gonna go 9.5 out of 10. I think is what I'll give for Fanny and Alexander. I think it's hard to find a Bergman film that's just flat out bad. So,
I would assume so. Yeah, I would assume so.
I mean, listen, some of them are 10 out of 10s. Some of them are 8 to 9. So it's like he rarely misses. Let's put it that way. But the most important thing is, guys, again, let us know your thoughts and opinions. And for next week on Criterion and Classics, we're going to be discussing La Haine. I believe that's how you say it, Lahaim?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is a big inspiration to Ryan Coogler.
Yes, and also incredibly timely and relevant today. And we have to thank Shift YSL, our viewer, a frequent viewer, and great, consumer of our content here on the channel, for recommending it to us. And so there will be links in the description where you can watch that. Links to Amazon, links to the Criterion channel and all that good stuff where you can watch Lahaim. So that is the film for next week. Watch it and come back and join us for another episode of Criterion and Classics. Tyler, thank you so much for joining me on this. Where can everyone find you?
And you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, by searching Tyler Tompkins, and I'm also on Letterboxd under my name, Tyler Tompkins, so you can see what I'm watching on there, including the Criterion movies, where I kind of write my brief thoughts.
Including the Criterion movies, yes. And he's going to be watching Artemis Fowl, folks, so that'll be fun.
Yeah.
Lastly, guys, you can like FilmSpeak on Facebook, follow us on Twitter simply by searching FilmSpeak, and if you like me specifically and you like what I have to say, you can give me a follow on Twitter at Griff Schiller. All right, guys, we will catch you back next week for another episode of Criterion and Classics, but until then, take care.